If someone told you that every wish you whispered into the darkness could come true, would you do it? Would you dare to gamble with forces beyond your understanding for the promise of wealth, power, and everything your heart craves? This is the story of Ethan Ward, an ordinary man who reached out to grasp success and grabbed hold of something far, far worse. It started as an innocent experiment in belief. But what Ethan didn't know was that success has a price, and some prices can only be paid in blood. Ethan Ward was a man suffocating in mediocrity. A 34-year-old marketing assistant in a cubicle too small for his ambitions, with peeling wallpaper and a fluorescent light that flickered just enough to unsettle his nerves. Every day he scrolled through social media, watching people younger than him flaunt luxury vacations, six-figure incomes, and lives so perfect they could only be curated. Ethan wasn't lazy. He wasn't stupid. But something always seemed to hold him back. A promotion passed over, a deal that fell through, an opportunity snatched away at the last second. And with each failure, a little more of his hope drained away. One stormy Friday evening in October, Ethan sat alone in his apartment. The rain tapped against the window like skeletal fingers, and the wind howled down the narrow alley behind his building. His phone buzzed with another motivational video. A smug-looking guru smiled from the screen, promising, "You can manifest the life you want. Believe it, speak it, claim it, and it will be yours." Ethan scoffed. He'd heard it 100 times before. But as the storm outside intensified, and a feeling of emptiness gnawed at his chest, something cracked inside him. What if it was true? What if, for once, the universe would listen? He scrolled through forums dedicated to manifestation and occult practices. Most were harmless: vision boards, positive affirmations, meditation. But one thread caught his eye: the mirror ritual for absolute manifestation. The instructions were simple, almost laughable. At midnight, stand before a mirror with a single lit candle. Speak your deepest desire 3 times, and the mirror watcher will hear. If he accepts your request, you will feel a chill. If he does not, do not look away from the glass. Do not break the gaze until dawn. A ridiculous internet myth, probably posted by some edgy teenager. But desperation makes fools of us all. At 11:59 p.m., Ethan lit the only candle he could find, a half-burned vanilla-scented pillar leftover from an ex-girlfriend's visit. The apartment was eerily silent, save for the rattling windows and the distant wail of an ambulance siren. He placed the candle on the bathroom counter, facing the smudged, age-speckled mirror. His reflection looked back, tired eyes, unshaven stubble, and a face that bore the weight of unfulfilled dreams. He cleared his throat, his voice barely above a whisper. "I want to be successful," he said. Nothing happened. The candle flickered. "I want to be successful," he repeated, a little louder this time. Still nothing. The storm outside howled like a wounded animal. "I want to be successful." The third time the words carried weight. They hung in the air like mist. For a moment everything went still. The candle flame elongated, then dimmed, then brightened again. And then a chill. A creeping, unnatural cold that seeped into his bones. The kind of cold that wasn't from a draft or an open window. It was the cold of grave dirt and unmarked tombs. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. He stared into the mirror. His reflection smiled. He hadn't smiled. He was sure of it. The figure in the glass wore his face, his clothes, his posture, but its lips curled into a grin, and its eyes shimmered black like twin drops of oil. Ethan's pulse thundered in his ears. Every rational instinct screamed at him to look away, to run, to smash the glass and end this absurd game. But the instructions echoed in his mind. Do not look away until dawn. The figure's mouth moved, soundless, forming words Ethan couldn't hear. Its hand lifted, palm outstretched against the inside of the mirror. A second later, Ethan felt a pressure against his own palm. Cold and slick, as though pressing against wet stone. He hadn't raised his hand, but there it was, mirroring the gesture. Terror and fascination warred within him. The candle's flame flickered violently. Outside, lightning split the sky. And then darkness. The power went out. For a heart-stopping moment, Ethan stood in pitch-black silence. No storm. No candle. No light. And then the whisper. "It is done." A voice like dry leaves scraping across a tombstone. Faint and hollow, but undeniably real. Power surged back. The candle relit itself. Ethan was alone. His reflection normal. The oppressive cold gone. He stumbled back from the mirror, heart pounding like a drum. What had he done? Was it real? A trick of the mind? The result of stress, exhaustion, and too many online horror stories? Ethan didn't sleep that night. But the next morning everything changed. At precisely 9:03 a.m., Ethan received an unexpected call. A job offer. Not just any job, but a senior marketing position at a prestigious firm he'd applied to months ago and forgotten about. Triple his current salary. Company car. Executive privileges. Before he could process it, a message popped up on his phone. An influencer he'd casually followed on Twitter had retweeted Ethan's long-forgotten art account, flooding it with followers and commissions. By noon, Ethan was being congratulated by people who'd ignored him for years. His email overflowed with opportunities. He told himself it was coincidence, a fortunate alignment of timing. But deep down a part of him knew that last night's ritual, real or imagined, had unlocked something. Days passed, and the streak continued. A chance meeting with a wealthy investor at a coffee shop. A lottery ticket he'd bought on a whim netted him $5,000. A viral marketing campaign idea at his new job secured a major contract, earning him praise and a hefty bonus. Ethan was flying high. The universe, it seemed, had finally chosen him. But shadows clung to the corners of his new life. He began to notice things. Reflections that lingered a second too long. A face in a store window that wasn't quite his. Voices on late-night calls when no one else was home. Cold spots in rooms that should have been warm. And in his dreams, a figure. Pale, gaunt, eyes like pits of ink, always watching, always smiling. The mirror watcher. Each morning, Ethan woke with a new success, and a deepening sense of dread. Because the whispers had begun. First they were faint, indistinct. But each night they grew louder. Words he couldn't understand, in a language not meant for human tongues. And the worst part was, he couldn't stop. By the end of the week, Ethan Ward was a man transformed. Richer, respected, desired, and utterly alone. Because something was coming for him. Something that had been watching since the mirror. And the debt for his newfound success was about to be collected. Ethan Ward hadn't slept in 3 nights. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the same face. Pale and stretched thin, with those bottomless ink-black eyes and a grin that made his stomach twist. The mirror watcher. Even when he managed a few moments of restless slumber, the creature found him in dreams that felt too real, too cold. A suffocating void filled with echoes of promises he barely remembered making. The whispers were constant now. They came from every reflective surface. Windows, polished doorknobs, the sheen of his phone screen. He couldn't understand the language, but the intent behind them was unmistakable. Something wanted him, and it was getting closer. Ethan was thriving. Every material thing he had ever longed for now lay within his grasp. His bank account overflowed. His name appeared in trade magazines. A luxury car gleamed in his reserved parking spot. Beautiful people sought his company. Doors opened effortlessly. But for every success a cost. His mother called one evening, her voice trembling, to say their family dog had vanished from the backyard, leaving only muddy paw prints that led into the woods and disappeared. A week later, a distant cousin was found dead in his apartment. Cause unknown. His face twisted in an expression of unspeakable horror. Co-workers who'd once challenged him suffered sudden misfortunes. One fell down a flight of stairs. Another was hit by a taxi. No fatalities, but injuries severe enough to end their careers. Ethan told himself it was coincidence. But the whispering shadows knew better. And so did he. It was on a chilly Thursday evening, nearly a month after the ritual, that Ethan's life took a darker turn. He was leaving an upscale restaurant downtown after closing a lucrative deal. The streets shimmered with rain, neon lights reflecting in shimmering puddles. The city felt alive, pulsing with secrets. He'd almost reached his car when a voice called out from the alley. "Ethan Ward." It wasn't a question. He froze. A figure stepped from the shadows. An old man, hunched and skeletal, wearing a threadbare coat and carrying a cane carved from bone. His face was a map of age spots and scars. His eyes a piercing milky white. "Who are you?" Ethan demanded, glancing around. The street was deserted. "I am a herald," the old man rasped. His voice sounded like dry leaves in a dead forest. "I bring warnings to those who've made bargains beyond their means." Ethan's skin prickled. "I don't know what you're talking about." The old man stepped closer. The stench of earth and decay followed him. "You called him," the man whispered. "You summoned the Watcher. And now the debt comes due." Ethan felt the blood drain from his face. I never agreed to anything." The old man's grin was a jagged, toothless thing. "They always say that. But the moment you reached out through the glass, the moment you spoke the desire, you marked yourself. And he marked you in return." Ethan's pulse thundered. "What does he want?" "Balance," the herald murmured. "For every fortune granted, a misfortune must be paid. The Watcher takes his due in madness, in blood, in souls." Ethan's throat went dry. "How do I stop it?" The old man shook his head. "You don't. There's no stopping the Watcher. You can delay him, barter with lesser spirits, but every path leads to ruin. Then why warn me?" The herald's eyes gleamed. "Because I was once like you, fool. And I pity fools." He stepped back into the shadows, vanishing as swiftly as he'd appeared. Ethan stood alone in the rain, his success tasting like ash in his mouth. That night, Ethan tried to ignore the old man's words. He told himself it was a trick, some lunatic seeking attention. But deep down the fear festered. The whispers were louder now, so loud they drowned out his thoughts. He covered every mirror in his apartment with sheets and towels, taped over his TV screen, left his phone face down. But it wasn't enough. The Watcher's presence lingered in every shadow, every reflection in a polished spoon or a darkened window. Ethan would catch flickers of movement in the corners of his vision, a tall, thin silhouette, always watching, always smiling. On the fourth night after the herald's warning, Ethan's assistant, Clara, vanished. She was last seen leaving the office late, her car keys in hand. Security cameras caught her pausing in the underground parking garage, staring into a mirror on a support pillar. Her expression went slack, her pupils dilated. Then she walked out of frame. No one ever saw her again. Ethan knew it was his fault. And the guilt gnawed at him. Desperate, he reached out to obscure occultists and internet forums, hoping for answers. Most were charlatans. But one message stood out, sent by a user named Midnight Oath. "You've bound yourself to a mirror pact. The Watcher feeds on consequence. There's one way to confront him, the mirror room. But be warned, the debt will claim its payment, one way or another." Attached was an address. An abandoned building on the outskirts of the city. Ethan drove there under the cover of darkness, his nerves frayed to the breaking point. The building was an old factory, long condemned. Graffiti covered the walls, and rusted metal jutted from broken windows like jagged teeth. The air smelled of mold and rot. Inside, the walls were lined with broken, dusty mirrors. And in the center a single intact one. A tall, ornate frame, its glass impossibly clear. The reflection showed the room perfectly. But no sign of Ethan. His own image was missing. A voice came from behind the glass. "Welcome, Ethan Ward, the Watcher." His voice was calm, almost pleasant, but threaded with an undertone of hunger. Ethan's breath fogged in the sudden cold. I want out, Ethan said. His voice trembled, but he forced the words out. I didn't agree to this. The Watcher smiled. All desires come at a price. Yours was steep. I don't care, Ethan spat. Take it back. I don't want your gifts. The Watcher's grin widened. But you've already spent them. The room darkened, the mirrors flickering with images. Ethan's rise, his fortune, Clara vanishing, his cousin's death, the broken bodies of those around him. Every benefit he'd reaped, every tragedy left in his wake. The Watcher spoke. The balance must be restored. Ethan fell to his knees. Please, he whispered. The Watcher's ink-black eyes stared through him. There is one way, the entity said softly. A trade. Soul for a soul. Willingly given. Ethan's heart thudded. What do you mean? Find someone, the Watcher murmured. Someone to take your place. Offer them the desire. Let them speak the words. Then you are free. A name flashed unbidden to Ethan's mind. Ryan. His old college roommate. The one who'd stolen his girlfriend. Mocked him for his failures. Who still lived in Ethan's shadow despite all the recent success. Someone who deserved it. Didn't he? Ethan left the mirror room before dawn. The Watcher's final words seared into his mind. 1 week. Or the debt is yours in full. That week passed in a haze. Every day, more misfortunes struck those close to Ethan. A neighbor found dead in his bathtub. A friend's sudden, inexplicable car crash. The walls of Ethan's apartment bled condensation, and the air stank of damp earth. The Watcher came to him in dreams, closer each time. And in every reflection, Ethan saw his own eyes turn darker, hollower, like something was being hollowed out from the inside. He made his decision on a rain-drenched Saturday night. Ryan was in town for a business trip. They met for drinks at a bar downtown. Ryan, ever boastful, bragged about new clients, new women, new exploits. Ethan listened, smiling, lying. As midnight neared, Ethan led Ryan back to his apartment, under the guise of showing him a rare bottle of scotch. Inside, the lights dimmed, and Ethan offered Ryan a seat before the covered mirror. Ever heard of a manifestation ritual? Ethan asked casually. Ryan scoffed. You mean that woo-woo crap you used to believe in? Ethan forced a laugh. It works. Changed my life. I figured. You might want a shot. Ryan, ever competitive, sneered. What's the catch? No catch. Just speak what you want 3 times in the mirror. That's it. Ethan uncovered the glass. Ryan's reflection stared back. The seconds dragged. Then Ryan smirked. All right. Let's see what kind of nonsense this is. And he spoke. I want to be successful. Once. I want to be successful. I want to be successful. The 3rd time. The candle flickered. The chill returned. And behind Ryan in the mirror, the Watcher smiled. Ethan stepped back as the room darkened. The whispers rose, a chorus of unseen voices. Ryan's face slackened, his pupils dilating, and for a heartbeat, he seemed to see something beyond comprehension. Then it was done. The room warmed. The candle steadied. Ryan blinked, disoriented. What the hell was that? Ethan smiled. Your future. The debt had been paid. Now. But some deals are never truly finished. For the first time in weeks, Ethan Ward slept. No nightmares. No icy presence at the edge of his consciousness. No whispers curling through the dim places of his mind. When he woke, sunlight streamed through the window like liquid gold, and the air smelled clean, free of rot and damp. He stretched in bed, a lazy smile tugging at his lips. It was over. The pact had been passed. The Watcher had a new mark. And Ethan was free. Or so he thought. The following days unfolded like the pleasant aftermath of a storm. The tension that had gripped his chest for weeks dissolved. Food tasted better. Colors looked brighter. The city itself seemed to hum with possibility again. Ryan, oddly enough, hadn't called. After that night, he left Ethan's apartment looking dazed. muttering about having a strange dream and an overwhelming sense of hunger. Ethan had shrugged it off, let him stumble out into the night, and never looked back. Business deals came easier than ever. An investor previously on the fence about a major partnership signed without hesitation. A local magazine named Ethan one of the city's most influential young entrepreneurs. People smiled at him in the street. The watcher was gone. The oppressive chill, the lurking figure in reflections, the sinister grins in dark glass. Nothing. And yet, in the quiet spaces of his mind, a question lingered. Was it truly that simple? 3 days after Ryan spoke the words, Ethan was brushing his teeth in the bathroom when something caught his eye. In the mirror. His reflection didn't quite move in sync. It was slight, a heartbeat's delay, a twitch where there should be none. He blinked, wiped the fog from the glass and stared. His own face, pale and drawn, stared back. Then it smiled. Ethan's stomach turned to ice. He jerked away, nearly dropping his toothbrush. When he looked again, nothing. Just his tired reflection. A trick of the light. Nerves. That's all it was. But the next day the unease returned. He passed a store window and glimpsed a figure watching him in the reflection. Tall, thin, half-shrouded in shadow. Yet when he spun around, the sidewalk behind him was empty. At night, the dreams returned. Not the suffocating presence of the watcher, but a creeping sensation of something watching. Always just out of sight, moving through a glass world on the other side of mirrors. The line between safety and peril blurred. Unable to shake the feeling, Ethan dug through online forums, scouring threads on mirror pacts and the watcher's mythology. What he found chilled him to the bone. The debt never leaves the originator entirely. The burden can be shifted, but echoes remain, and the longer one holds the pact, the deeper it roots into the soul. Another user claimed, even if you pass it, the watcher may return if displeased, or if the new host fails to fulfill their own cycle. Some pacts are generational, infecting bloodlines. Ethan's stomach twisted. He hadn't asked what would happen to Ryan after the ritual. Would he pass it too? Would the cycle continue? Or would it return to Ethan if Ryan broke the chain? That night, a single text appeared on Ethan's phone. He's coming. No sender. No number. Just those 2 words. And a picture. Ryan's face, pale, hollow-eyed, staring into a cracked mirror. Blood streaked down his cheek. Ethan's breath hitched. It was nearly midnight when the knocking began. Soft, insistent at the window. Not the front door. The window. 6 stories up. Ethan's apartment overlooked the city skyline. Nothing but air and glass. No balcony. No ledge. Yet something tapped against the pane. He froze. The sound came again. He crept to the window, heart pounding, and peered through the blinds. Face stared back. Ill. Grinning. Ryan. But it wasn't him. His eyes were bottomless black voids, his mouth too wide. His skin paper-thin and corpse-white. The reflection moved before the real window did. And behind Ryan, within the glass, the watcher. Ethan stumbled back. The lights flickered. The room chilled. Then his phone rang. A number he didn't recognize. Shaking, Ethan answered. A voice spoke. Soft, calm, endlessly cold. The debt is not settled. Ethan's breath fogged in the icy air. You said. His soul was weak. Insufficient. And now, yours is bound twice. No, I did what you asked. The watcher's voice sharpened. You carry both debts now, Ethan Ward. His and yours. The burden doubles. A mirror across the room cracked, jagged lines splitting through the glass like veins. Ethan dropped the phone. A faint, spectral laugh rippled through the room. The watcher was back. From that night everything spiraled. Ethan tried to leave the city, but his car's brakes failed on the highway, sending him careening into a ditch. Miraculously, he survived with only bruises. But when he staggered to his feet, he saw a figure watching from a roadside billboard. The watcher. Always there. In every pane of glass, every puddle, every polished surface. Business contacts began severing ties. Emails went unanswered. Rumors of strange behavior and unsettling incidents swirled around Ethan's name. Police visited him regarding Ryan's disappearance, though no body was ever found. His fortune began to evaporate. Investments soured. Clients fled. His luxury apartment building demanded his eviction after tenants complained of strange sounds and flickering lights whenever Ethan passed. And worse, people around him continued to die. A doorman suffered a seizure. A stranger fell from a balcony as Ethan walked by. An old woman he helped cross the street was struck by a car minutes later. Death followed him like a faithful pet.